This is the story of a woman who made $145,000 during the time most people choose to rest.
She earned $145,000 in 1 year, working only 8 days a month. No startup, no team, no advertising. She didn't sell products or launch online courses. She simply noticed that Saturday and Sunday are the most expensive days businesses ignore, and she turned weekends into an asset. In 12 months, Emily earned $145,000 working only on weekends, not every week, just 8 days a month, about 5 to 6 hours a day. She was 29 years old. She lived in Southern California in a city with a population of about 180,000 people. On weekdays, Emily worked as an office coordinator, earning $23 an hour, 40 hours a week, with a stable paycheck, stable tasks, and a growing feeling that her time was slipping away. She wasn't looking for a business and had no plans to change her life, but every weekend she noticed the same thing. Cafes, studios, clinics, and salons looked worse than they did on weekdays. Lines were longer, employees were confused, appointments were mixed up, and customers got irritated and left. Emily started counting. In one coffee shop, over 90 minutes, she saw 11 people turn around and walk out. The average check was $12, which meant the business lost $132 in just an hour and a half. In a beauty salon, the receptionist mixed up appointments and 3 clients left without services, a $420 loss. Over 4 weekends, Emily recorded 67 similar situations. That was the moment she asked herself a new question. What if the problem wasn't the business, the staff, or the owners, but simply the weekends? Instead of immediately offering services or coming up with abstract solutions, Emily decided to start with observation and data. Over 6 weeks, she visited 27 businesses in her city, always on Saturdays and Sundays. She sat in waiting areas, stood near cash registers, and watched administrators and customers interact. She timed waiting periods ranging from 9 to 34 minutes, tracked appointment cancellations that reached up to 26% on weekends, and noted how some employees were overloaded while others stood idle. She recorded everything in tables and notes, sometimes spending 3 to 4 hours at a single location. In the end, she accumulated 312 observations and dozens of repeating scenarios. One number kept appearing again and again. Each business was losing between $1,200 and $1,800 every weekend, and no one noticed because reports were reviewed weekly, where weekends dissolved into a single total. That's when Emily formed a clear idea. She wouldn't be a manager, an administrator, or a consultant. She would become a system that worked only on weekends. After 6 weeks of observations and dozens of tables, Emily faced something she hadn't expected: resistance without opposition. No one told her no, no one argued. People simply smiled politely and did nothing. She showed numbers to 3 business owners in a row, explained weekend losses of $1,300, $1,560, $1,740, and heard the same response: interesting, let us think. Days passed, weeks passed, no replies. Emily reviewed her notes and realized something uncomfortable. The problem wasn't trust or money, it was psychology. Weekends felt temporary, messy, forgivable. Owners accepted chaos on Saturdays as something normal. Emily adjusted her approach. She stopped talking about problems and started talking about comparisons. She showed how the same business performed on Wednesday versus Sunday. She highlighted differences in staff load, cancellation rates, and customer wait times. One chart showed that a salon lost the equivalent of 23 weekday clients every weekend. That reframing worked. Within 10 days, 2 businesses came back with questions. One asked for a trial. Resistance didn't disappear, but it cracked. Emily learned a key lesson. People don't ignore losses because they're small. They ignore them because they feel familiar. When Emily first offered her services, she was rejected. The salon owner said he couldn't afford to pay another person. Emily didn't argue or persuade emotionally. She showed numbers. She explained that the salon was losing about $1,540 every weekend due to cancellations, long waits, and staff overload, while her work would cost just $600 a month. The owner took 3 weeks to think it over. After 21 days, he agreed to try. Emily worked only on Saturdays and Sundays without making radical changes. She redistributed shifts, reduced waiting time from 22 minutes to 11, implemented appointment confirmations, and balanced staff workload. After 28 days, the salon's revenue increased by 19%. 2 months later, Emily had 9 clients. The average fee was $650. Monthly income reached $5,850, and total working time was about 45 hours per month. She was still working just 8 days. By the 6th month, Emily was no longer improvising. She had templates. She knew exactly when cues began to break the system, when one extra employee was needed for just 60 to 90 minutes, and which services created bottlenecks specifically on weekends. She predicted overloads in advance and eliminated them before complaints appeared. Businesses stopped losing money and started earning more without increasing staff. Clients didn't pay Emily for hours or presence, they paid for calm. At this point, 17 businesses were working with her. The average contract was $750, and monthly income reached $12,750. Emily consciously turned down 6 clients because they required weekday work. She kept only what fit entirely into weekends. At the moment when Emily's monthly income stabilized above $12,000, advice started coming from everywhere. Friends suggested hiring assistants, clients asked if she could cover weekdays. One business offered to double the contract if she expanded to a second location. On paper, scaling looked obvious, but Emily ran the numbers. Hiring one employee would cost at least $4,200 a month. Managing them would add another 10 to 12 hours a week. Covering weekdays would break the very constraint that made her system efficient. She realized that her advantage wasn't growth, it was boundaries. Weekends forced focus, limited hours forced clarity. Instead of scaling outward, she scaled inward. She reduced her client list, raised prices slightly, and removed edge cases that created stress. Revenue stayed almost the same, but workload dropped by another 15%. Emily understood something many people miss. More money doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes it comes from protecting what already works. After 12 months, the picture was simple and clear. 21 regular clients, $145,000 in annual income, 0 employees, 0 advertising costs, and just 8 working days a month. Emily didn't scale, didn't build a team, and didn't try to squeeze out maximum growth. She simply stabilized the system. She took what others considered secondary and inconvenient, Saturdays and Sundays, and turned it into an asset. She didn't look for more time or sacrifice her life. She found time that no one valued and made it valuable. My personal takeaway is this. This story isn't really about money or weekends. It's about attention, about the ability to look where others don't. Most people search for new ideas, new niches, and new tools, but sometimes it's enough to look at familiar things from a different angle. Money rarely lies where it's loud. More often, it hides where everyone has learned to ignore losses. That's what makes stories like this truly powerful. What do you think?